Hello, everyone. Welcome to the next episode of Contact Lost, the Polish podcast about Warhammer 40k and the Polish competitive scene and the competitive scene abroad. I'm your host, Tweek, and with me today I have my co-host, Joker.
Hey, guys.
Hi, dude. And we decided to bring in two special guests today to talk about, well, the latest, I guess, publication or latest release by G-Dubs, the Balance Dataslate. And to talk about that, I have two top players from the Polish competitive scene. I give you Vladdi.
Hello.
Hi, thanks for joining. And the second guest, Duda.
Hi.
Hi, mate. So, guys, thanks for agreeing to join us and to talk about the data slate. Before we start, a huge request to all our listeners: if you could, please go and like and subscribe our channel. It helps us grow. It helps us increase our range. So we would be much obliged if you could help us in that way. And now, on to the topic of today's episode. Before we get into the data slate itself, Joker, I'll start with you. Can you set the context, sort of, what was the situation before the data slate was released? Was this patch necessary?
Very much so, I would say. I mean, we've obviously had the elephant in the room, Harlequins, with at one point a 96% win rate if you remove mirror matches and lists with the suboptimal Skyweavers, if I remember the name of those bikes correctly.
Mhm.
So obviously something very wrong was going on there, and we've had a bit of a not really interesting situation in general in terms of meta for singles, for example, or even AV8 team tournaments, because just the power of a couple of books, obvious ones, Tau, Custodes, Harlequins, and Stampede Tyranids, was just so far ahead of the rest that it was really demotivating, I would say.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Vlad, could you give us some insight into what the Polish scene looked like? Was it affected by that, by those new releases and so on? Was it the same as in the rest of the world, or was it different?
Well, the last game on the first day of Arena, the last big tournament, Poland, had, I think, first 11 tables with every single one of them with Harlequin on it, with Harlequin player on it. So, well, we were joking that that half of the Harlequins on the tournament will not be in the top, I don't know, 8, only because they will eliminate each other.
Yeah.
So I think that answers the question. Yeah, we felt the problem with Harlequins, but not only with Harlequins, also with Tau and Custodes. We felt that hard, just as hard as the rest of the Warhammer community all around the world. These codexes are, well, they were fairly unbalanced, and Harlequins were just over the top. So it's good that something changed about it, at least.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Duda, I think, prior to the data slate release, there were some thoughts, some attempts to introduce something like Hammer approach, where they wanted to, and all the competitive players collectively agreed to sort of adjust the points for every army when you go into tournaments. Can you tell us something about that? What was that? What was the idea about exactly?
No, I cannot, because I was not interested in it.
Okay.
And agreed is a strong word. Well, actually, it was completely opposite of agreed, I guess.
Wasn't there a voting?
Yeah, there was a number of ideas, and there were people who, well, felt strongly for those changes, and there were, I think, equal number of people who felt strongly against it. So the committee was actually divided about this Hammer balancing patches. In the end, they came up with some tournaments. So with the rules, some of the rules that the organizers made to balance things out. There were some armies got smaller number of points, some armies got bigger number of points. But I think with this release, with this data slate, this balancing slate, all those tournaments will in the end to use standard rules. So we didn't get far with that ideas, but it wasn't. The community was not in agreement at all about it.
So I guess the only agreement that I could mention was that when there was a post on the forum to have a voting on this, there was a group of tournament organizers who said, yeah, we're going to take those rules, we're going to try and apply them, and we'll report back on how it went or something like that. So I know
Yeah,
that
and at the same time, there was a poll in, I don't know, Krakow community about using such rules, and let's say that the poll was inconclusive, but the community as a whole was rather against it. So we were in agreement that something is terribly wrong with this game. That was an obvious conclusion. But in the end, the solutions to that were not simple. I was in the camp of people thinking that it's impossible to fix this game with any balancing slate that we can come up with.
Okay, so guys, what were the main pain points when we were going, when we were anticipating or waiting for the data slate for the patch? Joker, what was like one of the most infuriating things for you that you wanted to see patched?
So definitely Void Weavers, and probably the way the lucky dice worked, as in putting a restriction to doing one reroll of any kind per phase, for example, or what have you. So you can't just repeatedly reroll saves until your character lives or whoever. Obviously, I felt that the Custody stratagems are a bit too cheap, maybe, for their use, coupled with how good bikes are themselves. That just felt overly efficient. I think don't really have anything specific on Tau, but I just hate them in general, so can't really add much.
Everybody
Unfortunately,
Yeah, everybody does.
Yeah, so unfortunately, I can't add too much on that. And
All right.
well, yeah, let's stop there, maybe.
Okay, do that for the rescue. Anything else? Any other maybe rules or mechanics of the game that were annoying or should have been done away with completely?
I think it's hard to divide it into some certain mechanics because overpowered armies just are overpowered in total because of the combination of some mechanics.
True.
So you just so if the question was what did I hope for, so I just hope that they nerfed it wisely.
Yeah, so that it doesn't go either into one extreme or the other. So the armies are still playable at least. Vladdi, your one sentence comment to this. Was there anything that you were hoping for?
Well, basically, what Duda said. I only hope that it's not going to be too much, and because Duda just mentioned a very important thing, those codexes are internally so good, and they have so much synergy that it is impossible to, in my opinion, it is very difficult, or in fact impossible, to make any balancing slate that will balance them with the other codexes, like, I don't know, orcs, where in orcs there are a lot of things that were botched in terms of synergy. There are a lot of synergy in the codex. A lot of stuff does not work together. So those new codexes are very, very balanced internally, and it's difficult to change that in any way to make them on the level of those older codexes. So I just wanted to Games Workshop to do some changes to those top armies that would maybe just try to balance things out without doing too much.
Okay, all right. So let's see what GW have done and whether the changes that they have introduced will be meaningful, will be meta changing, will help the state of the game. Because I think at some point we got to this situation where people started comparing the current edition to the likes of the 7th edition, which I think is like one of the biggest um, offenses that you can basically talk about. So I hope that all of you guys have the data slate in front of you. Joker, I'll start with you. Can you tell us something about that? Maybe you can read out the first change, the Armor of Contempt. Tell us what it is about and how do you feel about it as a also Heretic Astartes player.
Right, so basically, whenever an attack is allocated to an Adeptus Astartes, Sanctic Astartes, so Grey Knights, I think, Heretic Astartes, or Adeptus Sororitas models, worsen the armor penetration characteristic of that attack by 1. And there are a couple of exceptions to this. So first bullet point, if the model is equipped with a Storm Shield or Relic Shield, Combat Shield, or Relic that replaces any of those shields, they do not benefit from that. So, like most notably, probably Deathwing Terminators, which you'd normally see running with such a setup. Then models with either the Sacrescent Shield or Force Shielding ability, and there is a bracket saying Celestial Sacrosancts and Nemesis Dread Knight units, so I guess it's the abilities, but I'm not too familiar with those armies. And then models that are under the effects of any other rule that worsens or reduces the armor penetration characteristic of an attack. So basically, this rule does not stack with any other sources that you might have that would reduce or worsen the armor penetration of incoming attacks. And in terms of feelings, well, I think it's a fairly welcome, but also an unexpected update. So we'll see if that brings back power armor to the tables.
All right. So does this change alone, give you any feelings towards Thousand Suns that you want to try them out now, or is this insufficient?
Yeah, I mean, they've obviously improved defensively, so they will be very, very hard to kill, the Terminators. So I'm definitely now tempted to see how they fit into the current meta that will shape out after this data slate.
All right. Duda, your feelings about this?
My feeling is that it perfectly sums up how DDAPS works. So at the start of the edition, they gave everyone +1 to damage and +1 to AP, and suddenly they realized that these weapons are too strong now, so everything's starting to get -1 to damage. But bigger AP means that armor doesn't really matter right now. So they realized that they have to decrease it. So suddenly all the high armor models, which are power armors, yes, get -1 to the AP. So basically they buffed everything to nerf everything, and this is not the way you should do it, but it's good that they noticed it. So maybe in some 2 or 3 data slates they will finally come with some good solutions.
Yeah, that there seems.
But
in terms of,
but in terms of the game, I don't. Of course, it's a good buff because it came out of nowhere. So you just for free get some special rule. That's always a buff. You cannot complain about it. But I don't think it would now make the overcosted and not really well in terms of special rules and such things Space Marines to trample the meta. They are better now, but I don't think it will change anything in the meta state with them.
Okay. Vladdi, do you think that playing against any of the armies named in here will be a bigger challenge now for you?
Against? I already took Iron Warriors yesterday for a test, for a spin of new slate against new needs. And it doesn't change a thing. Come on, it doesn't change a thing. It's a good change. It's a nice change. It's like Duda said. It's like someone noticed that something is really fucked up. It's like this constant increase of AP on everything just makes armor obsolete and make just turns the game into the 4+ invulnerable rolls. That's all it is. If you can roll 4+ or not. And so I think someone noticed that something is wrong, but it doesn't really change much. It's like trying to I know, stop the flow of the river with a spoon. It will not. It doesn't work out. The general the rules, the new data sheets of the new codexes, the internal balance, the synergy that those armies have, just tramples all those old codexes, old rules. Chaos Space Marines have simply no chance against those new codexes, even with this improvement. The Space Marines are in a bit better shape because they have some 8th edition supplements that were basically overpowered, and they were toned down with the 9th edition SM Codex, but they're still okay. So they may have some, I don't know, White Scars can be a bit better, but as Duda said, it will not shake the meta. I know that some friends of mine took Blood Angels for a spin yesterday against Needs, and they have similar conclusions that it doesn't help much. It simply doesn't help much. There's too little wounds. There are too many things with still terrible high AP, too many damage to weapons, and it just doesn't work. Okay. At least for Space Marines and Chaos Space Marines.
I would say that this increases the chances of Space Marines when they, fight with day level codexes, but it doesn't change anything if they want to stand in the best codexes.
Okay, so well, at least it looks like a step in the right direction. Maybe not the perfect step, but yeah.
Yeah, as I said, 2 or 3 data slates, and maybe finally we will get there.
Yeah, there is a trace of common sense in G-dubs at least. So yeah, I guess that's positive. So all right, let's.
Well, it is positive, but just I just want to mention that that kind of changes. To make a game more balanced, you need to take a careful look at each codex, compare it to what breaks meta now, and think what went wrong there. And Games Workshop is simply not doing that. And in my opinion, no such slate will balance the game. So basically, those bad armies will still be bad, and those good armies will still be good. But the only thing that will change is meta. So some units will be out, some units will be in. And so the meta will change. All those rules that we're going to talk about, they are changing the meta because some solutions are not that viable anymore. Some solutions will be more in use. But for example, all those changes just doesn't help, for example, orcs. This codex is very bad. It was written by someone who hates orcs, and there is no help, of course, in this data slate, and I don't see how any balancing data slate would help orcs to be able to compare to these new codexes. So I am. This is more than I expected, but this is less than I wanted.
That's a very nice statement, but yeah, I totally agree.
Our expectations were low, but holy fuck.
Somebody had to say that. All right, moving on to, I think aircraft was left unchanged. It's still the same sort of rule that we had before, so I'm going to move on to indirect fire weapons. I think a change that is welcome, and basically, I'm not going to read through the whole paragraph, but what it does is if you fire an indirect weapon at a target that is not visible, you add 1 to the ballistic skill, and you also add 1 to any armor save of the unit that is the target of the attack. Joker, again, I'll start with you because I know that you've been tinkering and playing a little bit with Eldar recently. I've seen you take some support weapons that I think are no loss firing support weapons. How do you feel about this change?
Before I say that, I think you said you add to the ballistic skill. Whilst
Sorry,
I think
you
meant
worsen.
subtract.
That's what I
yeah.
meant. You worsen the ballistic skill.
So first of all, I really like that they did differentiate that you worsen the ballistic skill and not just incur a -1 to hit, because that would be fairly irrelevant. And in terms of, I think this is a good change because actually, maybe not. It's a tough one to judge because the no line of sight weaponry was either just way abusable or it was pretty bad, like the Astra Militarum ones that have got an exception to this rule. Whilst you've had until recently Hiveguard that were just obnoxious with all the rules that you could stack on them. But in general, I think it's a good change, and I couldn't care less because I only brought one support weapon to do actions or be a cheap objective holder in my backlines. So, yep.
Okay, Duda, your opinion.
That's when I saw it, I was like, "What the fuck? What did they just do?" It's like this is not the way. Basically, it's like they did it good in terms of they killed the overpower nodal shooting, but they killed the entire whole nodal shooting, and that was not the problem. The problem was, as Joker said, the units that you could stack ton of buff of them, and they erase your army with no line of sight because they had exploding sixes, rerolls, and all the stuff. But now with this change, they killed it, sure, but also they killed all the other nodal shooting that was just okay. For example, do you think that the Whirlwind was OP or a single Shadow Weaver
Yeah.
or I don't know?
Or Plague with Crawler or something.
Yeah, the Plague Crawler, they were not, and now they totally suck.
They deleted them.
Yeah, they deleted them exactly because the problem was that you could, I don't know, take 6 crises with AFPs and stack on them everything, or 6 Hiveguards and stack on them everything. So what they should do, in my opinion, is like when you shoot out of line of sight, you cannot use any abilities
Buffs,
that are put on the unit. And this, I think, should fix it because you couldn't stack, as I said, and the regular nodal shooting, like Whirlwind, should stay the same because it didn't use it anyway. But they did like this, so they erased nodal shooting from the game for me.
Really? Is it that serious?
Jesus Christ, it's terribly serious.
Okay. So, Vladdi, would you have any alternatives to that? I was wondering, and I wanted to ask you about the idea that they introduced in the Tyranid Codex, where in order to tackle the obnoxious Hiveguard, firstly they toned down the Hiveguard, but even without that, they added this caveat that you need a synapse unit to see a unit that is hidden for the Nolus unit to be able to shoot at that. Do you think that that would be a better solution if they applied it to the entirety of the game?
Basically, well, I generally just simply agree with Duda. This is a very good example of how Games Workshop infects and worsens this game. What they do is they infect the body with the virus, with the very, very bad mechanics like overlapping buffs, rerollable hits, rerollable wounds, rerollable damage, and they give the ability to stack a lot of those rules on a single unit, like Tau Crisis with AFPs, like on Hiveguards. And then when the sickness grows and people are getting fed up, what they do not cure the system. They cut off limbs.
Yeah, they come to the conclusion we went too far, and they just
And
kill
they
the entire thing.
instead of curing the organism, they cut off the infected limbs. And
Yeah,
this is so stupid. Just a reminder, Hiveguards were even with double shooting stratagem, they were just okay unit, a very good but just okay unit before Leviathan supplement hit. And just after that, with Synaptic Link and full riddles to hit from Leviathan trait, they suddenly became OP, overnight.
true.
So, and how do you not get to proper conclusions when that happens? when do you get that you need to reduce all no-loss shooting, BS of no-loss shooting through whole the system because Hive Guards and Tau Crisis were, abusing the game. So basically now I need to, I just, bought 3 Weaver platforms, and now fortunately I didn't get time to paint them, and now I will not. And that's the end of it, because yeah. So basically, most, if not all, no-loss shooting was nerfed terribly. I am about to play on the weekend a sparring game against our French player, and he wrote me yesterday or today that he has in his list 25 AFPs on his Tau list that he doesn't want anymore.
Yeah, well, this is what you get for spamming something.
Well, yeah. So the no-loss shooting is nerfed to the is basically deleted. If a unit gives you nothing else but this no-loss shooting, then it is no longer usable at all.
All right, but we have one army that is exempt from this, right? We have Astra Militarum.
That only shows how deep in the well of meta this army is.
Yep. So I saw that they are trying to help the army in multiple ways. So we will get to that in a moment. But
yeah, that's a funny thing, because they did not just notice it. They did not nerf the guard indirect because they were already hitting on 5s. Right. So, but at the same time, now they actually forcing orc players to hit with squeak buggies to hit on 6s.
Yeah.
In most cases, orcs will hit on 6s with their no-loss shooting, or sometimes 5s. So yeah, so this is what Gabriel does. They noticed that maybe we'll make guard exempt from this, because that would mean they will be always hitting on 6s. But you will not take a careful look at all the codexes, all the units, to make sure that this nerf doesn't go too deep. So,
but I think they still remember that squeak buggies, were OP like 6 months ago.
Yeah,
and it's still with them.
Yeah, that may be the case. Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know what to think about this, because on one hand, it does seem like, yeah, what you said, that if GW nerfs something, they do it with a nerf bat, and they basically kill everything that has a specific rule. And then you go to the next rule that we're about to talk about, which is the bodyguard abilities. And in that rule, if you read into it, I mean, you don't even have to read into it; it's in the text. They give you each and every single bodyguard ability in the game, which means that they did have a comprehensive look, and they did take all the armies into account, and that can be done. So why not for all the rules?
It's very simple. That rule was done by some other janitor than the previous one. One janitor was more careful, had more time, maybe didn't have kids, and well, he had more time, so he prepared a proper rule. And the other one didn't have that much time, and he just came up with an idea and just threw that in. What I want to say about that no loss, one important thing, from my perspective, maybe that'd be a positive thought. In my perspective, as a competitive player, I prefer to play against no loss at all, so deleted all no loss from the game, than to play against overpowered one.
Yeah, that is a positive thing. So I guess we can use that to sort of close the topic of no loss and to move to the next rule. Again, Joker, I'll ask you to sum up what the bodyguard rule change is, because I've seen in a lot of places on Facebook, in some Facebook groups, on Reddit, I've seen many people ask the question, like, how do you interpret that change and what does it actually mean? So let's set the premise here first.
What could be okay, never mind.
No, I know what you want to ask, but again, as I said, I've seen this
Oh,
many
you'd
a
be
time.
surprised.
Yeah, you'd be surprised. And I really don't envy Pumba with all the questions that he is going to get at his tournaments as a judge. But still, there were plenty of questions. So let's set the premise here first. What is the exact change, and how will, in your opinion, will it affect the game?
So basically, the bodyguard rule, as we have known it, is gone, and it's changed into just the said unit with that ability, giving the lookout Cero even if it contains fewer than 3 models. And this is a very good change.
Okay.
Although I'd just like to point out as a digression that looks like we've also already got an update to the, as of today, still unreleased Tyranid Codex,
That's correct.
which is kind of funny.
Yeah, interesting, I'd say. So again, Vlad, this time I'll start with you. Does that mean that that Tyrant Guards are out of the list, or it doesn't change much?
It doesn't change anything
Mm-hmm.
at all. It doesn't change anything at all because the problem with Hive Guards, with Hive Tyrants being protected by Tyrant Guards, was not about not being able to shoot them at all, but about being protected in general. So what changes now? Previously you could have had one Hive Tyrants in front and Tyrant Guards behind the ruin, invisible to the opponent, and the Tyrant will be unshootable. Now all that still is in effect, but you need to have something else in front of Hive Tyrant, even behind the no loss, to have that Hive Tyrant protected. So it doesn't really change that much, but what is important, you can move your fast units close to Hive Tyrant and shoot him point blank, and he will not be protected by the Tyrant gun behind him.
Mm-hmm.
And that is very important change. This is how this bodyguard rule should be played from the start. This gives you the options to actually maneuver around the rule and still shoot with some maybe sacrifice to shoot those protected units. But it also gives them the layer of protection that was intended with, in this case, with Terran Guards. I like the change. It is good change. It was a very needed change. It was a change everybody looked for, and it was a change that was also, as we already mentioned, very carefully implemented. All different rules are explained. Some exceptions that maybe would be difficult to figure out were mentioned, like Hive Tyrants. So basically, this
Having
is
more 1 to
something.
9, yeah.
This is surprisingly something that they did good.
Yeah. Do that. Any additional comment to that?
Yeah, totally agreed. I don't know if you remember, but a few months ago, I and Pumba was here and we talked about the most stupid rules in the game, and this was the rule we mentioned first as the most stupid rule. And this solution is what we said then, that it should be work like this, and it does. So it's cool, and I can only congratulate to the unitor that wrote it. So yeah.
Job well done. You deserve a raise. Okay, now I think we're done with this rule, so let's move on to the army-specific changes. And I'll need your help here because the data slate doesn't clearly say which changes are from the previous data slate, which ones are the current new changes. So were there any changes for Adeptus Sororitas at all?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, these are both new.
So, okay, Duda, can you explain what the changes are?
Yeah, the first one is that you get the miracle dice at the start of each turn, not at the start of each battle round. So basically, you get 2 times the basic miracle dice you get. That's cool. This army from the new codex was lacking the miracle dice, so I guess it's fine. That's not too much. That's just a good addition. And the second change is for the Order of Valorous Heart, which had the rule that was making the AP -2 to AP -1 and AP -1 to AP 0, which now would be out of effect because the Armor of Competent rule. So they changed it that you cannot reroll the wound rolls against the units.
Okay. So are those changes that are going to bring this army back on the tables? Because from what I've seen and from what I know, the army really fell out of grace in recent times, and you haven't really you didn't see a lot of Adeptus Sororitas or Sisters on the tables. Will that help the army?
I don't really think so, especially with the bodyguard nerfed, when most of the points, I think, was made by the bodyguarded Morven and Celestine. So it's like balance out. So some nerfs, some buffs.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really think it will change a lot, but maybe Vladdi has some different view.
No, I totally agree. It will not change a thing. Let's be honest, it helps, right? Here you have double the basic
Sorry for
miracle dice, and you have armor contempt, but you still play an army that has 1 wound on power armor and nothing more. So it will not change the place the Sororitas have. It will help them against armies that were not changed in this fact. So it will be a slightly better against, like, for example, I don't know, Dark Eldar. It will be a bit better against orcs, but it's like if we're talking win ratio, it's gonna be I don't know, up to 3%. That's all. I don't think it's gonna change much.
Okay, so Sororitas players still need to wait for a major buff, I guess. Okay, now one of the armies that I think was described as the S tier army, the army that some perceived as broken. So Adeptus Custodes, Joker, your perspective on those changes. What are those, and is playing against Custodes going to be easier now?
Well, I think that not so long ago we mentioned that when G-dubs bring out the nerf hammer, it strikes hard, and oh god, did it strike hard, these guys. So basically, they've lost a bit of OPSEC, so now only troops units gain OPSEC, whereas before it was all infantry units and Adeptus Custodes detachments, so now your Wardens, Terminators, and your characters no longer will have objective secured, which is obviously a big loss. Then they've also strongly toned down some of the most abused stratagems, but in a much different manner than I thought they would. So I was hoping for an increase in CP, but instead now you can only use 3 stratagems once per game. And if I don't know the names, but if I know the effects correctly, that's the one that forbids you to reroll your hit, wounds, and damage. The other one is the transhuman, but I'm not sure what the third one is.
It's the change of the shield host.
Oh, yeah, the Emperor's chosen specific one.
But I guess the transhuman is not there, I think.
Oh, okay. Might have gotten that wrong.
So what the third one?
Yeah, the Arcane Genetic Alchemy is transhuman, so
oh yeah,
it's not
okay,
there, I think.
that's...
But I don't know what's the third one.
Oh yeah, okay.
So we are all very good, well prepared, I see. Don't worry, I don't know any of them.
And the last changes, yeah, that was my bad. That was right, because Arcane Genetic Alchemy is mentioned in the next bullet point, along with the forbid you to reroll stuff, that you can only use those 2 stratagems on infantry units. So no longer boosting your bikes that you've always had, at least 9. And having read all that, you need to keep at the back of your brain that they also got hit by that bodyguard change, because now your wardens no longer protect your characters from behind the wall.
What they actually do They actually do, but you need to have something in front
Yeah,
of
yeah,
your
yeah, of
characters.
course. Like you've mentioned and like we've spoken about when we talked about that bodyguard change, but well, it's not a no-brainer anymore.
Yeah,
So
it's not.
So do those changes actually send this army to oblivion, or are those changes that still make the army quite strong? Do that your view.
It's hard to say, a few hours after this slate, because there need to be,
Play
some
testing.
yeah, playtest, some games, some think tank. But it's totally makes this army worse than it was, and by a big scale. So I think now they struggle to get those on top rather than hold the top hard.
Yeah, so it's not like autoplay anymore.
It's not autoplay, but still these models are tough, really relevant in combat, in shooting, and all such things. But you cannot now utilize the tactic that you just jump at the middle of the table, survive enemy shooting, and they crush them, because it should not work anymore.
All right. Okay, I think we can leave Adeptus Custodes and we can move on to, I think, one of the biggest winners of this data slate. So, Astra Militarum. And I think we need to go through. Okay.
Wait,
You
wait,
didn't say
what?
it's a stand-up evening.
Yeah.
All
wait,
right.
What?
Vladdi, I'll have you analyze Astra Militarum and then have your opinion. Because that's what I heard, and that's what I've seen on the internet, the reactions, people suddenly wanting to play this army and removing dust from the shelves and from the
Wait, what? What? What?
tournaments. So what do the Polish competitive players have to say about that?
Well, maybe someone will correct me, but I see only two changes. One is that all unmodified hits on 6 automatically wound the target, and this is a army-wide rule now.
Not exactly army-wide, it's the regiment rule. So
Regiment rule, yeah.
yeah, Ogryns and such things do not benefit from
Yeah, yeah.
And
And
if you mix science in, they probably also don't benefit from that, right?
Yeah,
Because they're
yeah,
a different regiment. Mhm.
yes, so so that's it. And infantry squads have everything for free. Basically, all the equipment they get all the equipment for 0 points, so you can tool them up as you wish and not pay any points for it, which basically changes anything. It doesn't change anything about the army. It still sucks. Well,
Okay, so the auto wounding sixes to hit are not that
well,
meaningful.
the thing is, these the Astra Militarum didn't have the wounding problem. If they hit, they usually wound, because the manner of these weapons that the Astra Militarum possess in most cases means it's high strength weapons, but that have a problem with hitting anything. So I don't think that, and the rate of fire, the number of shots didn't change at all. So the fact that you'll get one or two more automatic wounds per shot per tank doesn't change at all. Doesn't change much with this. I don't see any impact that rule might have on the current meta.
So you mean to say that we won't see any, guardsmen killing stampede monsters with flashlights? And it doesn't mean
No,
that.
I don't think that's gonna happen.
come on,
Now,
few more statistical wounds doesn't
as-
change anything.
especially when you consider that those stampede or generally needs creatures got just upgraded to 2+ save. So yeah, good luck with that.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And
We're not-
the
So-
problem of this army is that they have defensive profiles from 5 years ago, and offensive profile of everything else went too far ahead.
And the cost of current codexes. Come on,
That's it.
the 12 wound tank with now 2+ save from the slate. Well, not the slate from previous one, but it's still here. The Lemon Rose tank has 12 wounds, and the commander. Let's talk about the commander one. he costs more than 200 points, and he gets hit by 3 lances and dies. It's like that. So there is those units cost like the most powerful units nowadays, but they have profiles and rules from a few years back, so it's not gonna happen.
Also, and I digress again, if you overthink this Hammer of the Emperor rule, this is your doctrine level rule, which might mean the codex is still light years, or more like years away. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the most funny stuff about this is the changing cost of the infantry squad. Guys, come on. The total cost rose by 5 points, and now you can gear up the unit for 50 points total, because in the previous pointing, the last cannon, plasma gun, plasma pistol on the sergeant, a power fist, voxcaster was like 50 points. So it turns out that the pointing previously was made that the guardsman should cost 1 point.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. So what Duda is saying that
it only shows that how wrong, how bad the pointing of this codex is made.
Yeah.
Or isn't, because the codex is not there.
Yeah, but I mean, you know,
yeah, obviously.
The Monitorum field manual, or how it's called.
Correct. All right. Okay. So let's leave the guard. Let's move to Adeptus Mechanicus. Any changes there?
No.
No.
Today I was recording with the Adeptus Mechanicus specialist, and he said that nothing changed.
Nothing changed. Okay, so we can move on. Space Marines, apart from the Armor of Contempt, any other changes? I don't think so.
The only change is similar to the sisters. So the Salamanders had the rule that was reducing the armor penetration, so now they also cannot be rerolled to wound. That's it.
Okay, so Space Marines, other than that, untouched. Chaos Space Marines, I think, as well.
Untouched, yeah.
So Death Guard, Joker, can you tell us what the change here is? And is it big? Is it small? Is it game-changing?
So Terminators and Death Guard detachments now gain objective security, just like the ones that Thousand Suns have. So obviously that's a welcome change. Will it change much? I'm not so sure.
Duda?
But yeah.
Yeah, so that's the kind of magic Games Workshop does. So they take away the OBSEC from Terminators in Custodes, and in the same slate, they give it to Terminators, but in other army. So that's so weird.
Like
It's
throwing
weird.
darts at a wall
I
and
have
whatever
a question.
stick.
Why Chaos Space Marine Terminators didn't get OBSEC?
Yeah.
Why Mega Nobs didn't get OBSEC?
Exactly. And this change is like, it makes the Plague Marines even worse, because the only reason to take the Plague Marines was that they had OBSEC. Now the Terminators also has OBSEC, so it just don't put the Plague Marines in army, I think. And I don't know if it really changed anything, because the Death Guard still is slow, still has not really the ranged power, and even though it's Death Guard and it should be durable, it's not. So you cannot hold the objective if you're dead, right? So
if you're not on it,
but to be honest, and our Dev Guard community is very happy, and they are posting lists and builds like there's no tomorrow on our Discord channel. So maybe someone will come out of this. Just we need to remember that those Terminators get OBSEC, but also Dev Guard got Armor of Contempt, with a good 2+ profiles on many things. So we'll see. I agree with Duda. They're too slow to be good overly in the competitive environment. But our Dev Guard players from our community are happy, so we'll see.
Yeah. So all eyes on Asarnil again. I think I saw his comment where he was like positively surprised that they actually didn't nerf Death Guard and quite the opposite. So
Oh.
so that's a positive thing. And maybe this in conjunction with other changes in this data slate could mean that Death Guard is going to see some play and some successes as well.
Yeah, I think we
let's
all
hope.
hope that it happens.
Yeah, let's hope. Exactly.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so let's leave it here. All right. One of the most anticipated changes, or the most needed changes, and the factions that probably needed nerfs the most, Harlequins. Who wants to pick this one up? Everyone.
Like,
Vladdi, I'll go with you.
okay, they just got nerfed, but not well.
But not to the ground.
Not in the way that I'd like, let's say, because at the start of our conversation, Joker said that he was expected some limits of on the dices that you could use to do certain rolls. For example, that you cannot constantly roll saves in one phase, only in one turn, and that didn't happen. Basically, there were two major changes as they increased the cost of Starweaver and Voidweaver, especially Voidweaver. Voidweaver, I think, got the single greatest increase that Games Workshop ever did. It jumped from 90 to 130 points. And let's be honest, that's huge. I didn't expect that. I did expect some 20 points increase, 40 points. Well, just to sum up where that put Voidweavers, I didn't see a single Harlequin player resigning on them. They simply limited the numbers from 9 to 6, and nothing else happened there. So, it's clear they're still very good, and probably a very much better price now. So they should be 130, I guess, from the beginning. The same goes for Starweaver here, like, I know, 50% increase, jump to 95 points, and it's also much more on point, considering how good this unit is. I need to read the changes. I wrote them yesterday. I just can't remember them well. I think then they nerfed. I can't. Maybe Joker will help. I don't know, or maybe Duda. I don't know how this favor of Kogorach Water trait worked before. So I don't. I know that this is a nerf, and the rule is not good that good anymore. But maybe guys will help with why.
They've
So the
changed
combo,
it to
so the
melee
combo
only.
Yeah. So the combo was that you had the Death Jester with exploding 6 with 1/6 makes 4 hits, and you just switch the hit roll to 6, and you get a lot of exploding 6s. But now it works only in combat, so you cannot use it on Death Jester. I mean, you can, but only in combat, so it doesn't proc you don't get the auto proc of the exploding 6.
Oh yeah, and the other is the change to mirror accurate pivotal roll. Now you select one set core unit with 9 of the model, and the model is considered to be additional 6 inches away from the shooting model. As far as I remember, previously that was an aura.
Yeah, and it works on everything.
And now you single out one more unit, so it's a huge nerf to that rule.
Yeah, but previously also it wasn't the core, so it worked on your entire army. Now it doesn't work on the boats.
Yeah.
All right. So again, are those changes game changing for Harlequins?
Well, you mentioned that some of our community wanted to implement a balancing patch previously, and in that patch, the Harlequins was supposed to play a 2,000 point game using 1,700 points, and this change actually is worse than that. they lost 400 points from 2,000 point army, even more than 400 points. So, so basically, yeah, that must make an impact. And how much of an impact we'll see with the results from the incoming tournaments, international, our tournaments. Honestly, I looked at those lists that people are putting in after the slate, and it still looks good for the Harlequins.
Okay.
Yeah,
This only shows how broken that codex was from the beginning.
Yeah, exactly. So the problem is that 6 Void Weavers still gonna crush, I don't know, 70% of the armies in the game, just like that. Now they just struggle with some top tier armies, but still are very good. And the problem is that what I think happened is like when you watch the games when Harlequins win, most of them is like in turn 2, the opponent is tabled, right? I think there was quote of some of the top USA players which said that he's on Adepticon, I think. Most of his game, yeah, most of his games were like this, so he tabled in turn 2. And
actually,
then,
yeah, Lennon. Sorry to that. Lennon just joked during the tournament that he was asked what kind of secondaries he takes, and he answered that he decides during the game because they don't matter. The opponent is tabled in the turn 2, so it doesn't matter really.
Yeah, so he can do a lot.
Exactly. So what you and what GDubs, I guess, saw watching those games was, oh no, the Void Weavers are OP, and they nerfed Void Weavers. That's cool. But what you didn't see, and what the problem is, that inside the Star Weavers, there are still broken characters, broken units, which like, you know, simple TM or simple solitaire can still rape out a lot of army of the opponent. It's, in my opinion, they are lower. They cost too low. And
yeah, and they did have crazy damage.
This was not addressed in here because, you know, the GDubs didn't see they perform because most of the games didn't need them to perform.
And even if they did, it's difficult to catch up what Solitaire is doing. It's a small model, and actually, I do think that some of people who were creating this pack was just watching the game, you know, from the sky view, from the eagle eye view. And when you're using Solitaire, it's difficult to see what model is being moved, what's going on. You can see a huge number of boats, but you can't see a single model that is killing everything on the table. And the Solitaire, especially TM, is also a problem. Solitaire is a big problem because he can dish out a lot of high AP hits with a lot of damage, and he takes out the invulnerable save. So basically, if he hits, you can't defend against him. And he's also defensively very strong. He has, I don't know, pivotal roll that disallows rerolls and is -1 to hit. And he also can, he has 3+ invulnerable save and can use all the rerolls, all the dices, lucky dice. So basically, I know that there were some battles in our community already when people are complaining that the single Solitaire was put in front of their armies and they shoot everything at him and he still survived. So yeah, this is huge, but it's still disappointing what they did to Harkins.
Okay, so we're looking forward for more, and we need more players like you guys to complain loudly about those tiny models that are difficult to see.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
All right, Joker. I know that Drukhari didn't see any changes here, but what's
They
your
actually did.
Oh, they did. So yeah, tell us about it.
Yeah, but it's it's really a change in wording. I think that was obviously incorrect in the codex because that's the second bullet point in the data slate, which says change the second bullet point of Agile Hunter's obsession to read. If a unit with this obsession, blah, 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 has Hypex, add 3 to that unit's move characteristic instead of 2. Whereas in the codex, it was printed add 4 instead of 3, where Hypex never gave you 3 additional inches, just 2. So that was obviously something wrong there from the very beginning. Must have missed the FAQ, so they just threw it in here. for some reason.
Okay.
Yeah.
But still, I wanted to ask because when I was preparing for this episode, I did read, among others, the Polish league Facebook page, which I think had a very neat summary of the data slate. And whoever wrote that post wrote that Drukhari haven't really seen any nerfs nor any buffs. However, taking into account the nerfs to all the other top armies, Drukhari is in a quite good position. Would you attest to that, or not really?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, obviously, if you're a good army already and you don't get nerfed whilst the other good armies do get nerfed, then that's good for you, isn't it? I mean, I think especially that change to Custodes will help Drukhari. I'm not sure what the
And no
Harlequin
luck, probably.
ones changed
No loss will
that
help
much.
at all. Really,
Yeah, no less
a lot.
obviously. Yes, but I think Tau didn't get enough, and if Stampede stays, then there are still easy counters to Drukhari.
But yeah, I picked you out for this particular question because obviously you play Drukhari. So recently, I've seen you play more Eldari than Drukhari. Would this data slate, taking everything into account, make you pick them up again, or are you still sticking to Eldari?
I'm a bit reluctant to return to Drukhari currently, but mainly because of the playstyle. I really liked them when it was, pirates jumping out of boats and killing you. I was never really a fan of Covens, and after having a couple games recently where I just kept rolling once for advance, I'm fed up of that. And I very much prefer the Eldari way now, where you also get to cast some psychic. You actually have a bit of shooting. You just get this feeling that you're active in every phase, and that's really something that's interesting to play.
All right.
And
Okay.
they also didn't get nerfed in this data slate, not even mentioned, to be honest.
Okay. Let's move on. Duda, I'll let you go through the Tau Empire changes. Any big ones? Any major hits? What do you think?
So the big hits, yes, but totally misplaced, I think. So the first thing is the change of Montka. Now you don't get the extra AP. You only reroll the wound versus 1 if you shoot the closest eligible unit. That's a good change, I think, but I think we already mentioned that the AP doesn't really play nowadays. Maybe now the Space Marines or other power armors will be more happy because in total it's like 2 AP difference. But I think that most of the units are currently used just inf rather than safe. But it's a cool change. That's the change I would say is good in the terms of nerfing, because that's not a huge change, but it's slight nerf, and that's cool. I think the nerfs should be done like this, because they didn't delete the entire rule.
Yeah.
They didn't break it. They didn't make it totally useless. They make it worse, but it's still very good, because I think that most of Tau players forget that it allows you also to advance and shoot in the first 3 turns. And mostly that's the reason you take it. And the additional AP and reroll wound rolls of 1 was, the good addition, not something that makes you play it.
Perfect summary, I guess.
Yeah, so that's cool. I don't know what's the devastating Counter-Strike. Oh, sorry. Yeah, the next one is for the far side enclaves, and it makes you that you don't get the free marker light when you shoot from 9 inches rather than 12, which basically changed that you cannot get the free marker light when you drop from the deep strike, because then you have to be more than 9 inches. That's also cool change, I think. It's on the same level that the previous one, so it makes this rule worse. It makes you cannot abuse the drop and clear, but still that rule is good, because when you get close, you get free marker lights, which of course change a lot in Tau Empire. So that's cool, I think. Then there is removement of core keyword from broadside battlesuits. I think when I was reading the codex for the first time, that was first day FAQ for me. But I think they need to grow up to this. But when you compare the broadsides to, I don't know, Iron Strider Ballistari, this is the same type of model. So I think they should be treated evenly. And if the Ballistari do not get the core keyword, also broadside battlesuit should not. And that happened. And the last one is that the minuses to charge incurred from 2 stratagems in Tau Empire and any other sources like difficult ground do not stack up. So you cannot make someone to charge on -6 from Tau.
Okay. Yeah. So all good changes, I guess.
I would say, yes, as I said, good, but I would say misplaced because there is no mention about crisis battlesuits, which are the biggest issue of this codex.
Yeah, and they are still going to be spammable.
Yep,
Yeah.
but I think what happened that on more open tables, the broadsides are obviously better, and maybe there is no much crisis used in the USA or something, and they were just neglected.
Mm-hmm.
And now when the broadsides are nerfed, then people just bring up the crisis battlesuits, and we already know because in Poland we use only the crisis that they are fucking broken, and I am really sad that nothing changed about the crisis.
Yeah, I'm also surprised.
I actually agree. Yeah, that's all the set is on point, and the lack of any nerf to crisis is terribly disappointing. I was at least expecting some decrease of number of systems they can take. That would limit a bit the openness of the crisis. But nothing was changed. Let's be being totally honest. The change to APFs to no-loss shooting is on itself a big nerf to Tau, because most of its clearing potential was based on no-loss shooting with the crisis with AFPs, and now that's not gonna happen. I see already Tau players from our community, and as I said, my French opponent from Income in sparring, they all are dropping no-loss shooting on crisis, which is generally good for the balance, even if those crises are still OP terribly. If they do not possess no-loss shooting with bonus AP, then you can at least plan a game against them. Because before that, planning a game was impossible. He was just deleting everything within 24 inches, just like that. No defense against that. Now you can play in your game, you can plan your game, you can hide behind the ruin, use your units to block objectives, to kill the spam units of Tau, to sacrifice something, make exchanges. It's still not what we expected, but at least it gives us a briefer against this stupid army.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, it's no more that much brainless. But the simple solution for Tau players is they just gear up something else on the crisis, and still gonna be, there is still 600 points unit that you can buff with everything. And,
yeah, so it probably still will need some attention in the future. Okay, so that was Tau. And then we are left with Necrons and Orcs, which I think didn't see any major changes, right? Or am I missing something? Yeah, I thought so.
And in terms of Necrons, that's actually a good thing. They're considering a lot of things was nerfed. They need to find the place in the meta again. But it's bad for Orcs because, as I mentioned today, The codex is badly written. It was good for a time because of the obviously good data sheets of the different war baggies. But it was actually the only thing good about the codex. And now that the rules that was implemented in the previous slate stays in this one as well, and nothing else changed, the codex generally sucks, and there are so many problems. It really deserves another podcast about how badly the Orc Codex is written.
Okay, yeah, we can have an episode on that, definitely.
I'll be ranting for an hour.
All right. All the negativity is always welcome.
Exactly. That's becoming a theme in here. So, guys,
we should also mention one army that is not here, not in this slide, and should
yeah,
be.
that was my next question.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if it's exactly about the same army that you wanted to talk about, but I wanted to highlight that Eldari and GSC are not in here, and demons are not in here. So
and knights disappeared.
And
that's so stupid. About disappearing knights, it's like, I don't know, does the Games Workshop have the Stone Age in their quarters or whatever? It's like posting up such file is a 5-second upload of PDF. So why the hell did they remove the OPSEC from knights until they get the codex? So for the month, or until the codex is released, all the knights players are just fucked because the rules just disappeared. And what would be the problem to leave it here, and when the codex appears, just upload the other file with removed rules? What would be the problem with it?
That's so stupid that it defies explanation. Really, that's why the fact that they do that. They have given knights a very good rule, balancing the old data sheets, and now they deleted it for no reason at all, because knights were not abusing any meta anywhere. They were good in our meta for like a month maybe. Then then Stampede came in and bye knights, and so they were not abusing meta anywhere. So why the fact that they delete those very good rules for them, I have no idea. Why there are no balancing things for demons, I have no idea either. I have a general idea why Chancellor Cults and Crowdle Elders are not here, because those two armies are actually quite balanced. There are very good armies on the, maybe not on the very top, but close to it, they are quite nicely balanced internally. There's nothing really overpowered that comes out. There are very good units, don't get me wrong, they hit very hard, but I don't think that there is anything there that can be seriously abused. So the lack of any balancing things for them in this slate is not that surprising. But what I wanted to mention is NIDS. There's nothing about NIDS here.
Do you think it should be there before the release of the codex?
Actually, well, maybe not. it's that Knight's case, but on the smaller scale, because we know that codex is coming out this tomorrow.
Yeah.
So, but I don't. They already implemented the codex rules in this slate.
They did. That's
because
in the bodyguard.
There is bodyguard rule for the Terran guards that they did not have previously. So they already implemented it. So maybe they will change the slate tomorrow. And we all hope that's how it's going to happen, because, my friends, if Stampede is going to be played with new codex, then we will very soon forget about how broken Harlequins were. So I actually a bit expected already in the slate the general ban of Stampede. I was expecting a ban on Stampede just straight up in this slide. A simple rule that Stampede is out of competitive match play, but it's not there, and I am worried that it's not gonna be there tomorrow, and we will be playing with Stampede needs for like a month or two, and all suffering through it.
Yeah. So to our listeners who probably didn't realize, we actually were supposed to record an episode on NIDS on Wednesday, but the data slate dropped, so we decided to switch the topic and to talk about the most recent publication. Still, in when preparing for the NIDS episode, Vladdi, I wanted to ask, or I had one question down to ask you, do you have any intel on what's going to happen to either Leviathan or Stampede? With Stampede, I guess we know, we need to wait. How about Leviathan? Have you heard
guess
anything?
no more insight that anyone can get. I have, as a Tyranny player, I carefully watch all the informations that appear here and there. My French opponent that I was mentioning previously tells me that he has on good authority from one of his top YouTubers in his country that there's gonna be tomorrow day one fuck for dates that will eliminate both Leviathan supplement and the Stampede from match play. But I would take that with a lot of salt. Is there gonna be any changes? We'll see tomorrow, and maybe not. I am doubtful because it's like with this meme that is very very on point with Games Workshop. Our expectations were low, but what the fuck? So basically, I expect everything. I don't know what to expect from tomorrow. We'll see tomorrow if Games Workshop will address the Stampede rules and new codex. If not, this is gonna be a cancer that like this system never seen.
Okay. So let's wait for tomorrow. Let's see. Guys, I think we've covered the majority of the topics that we wanted to cover here. I'll have a sentence of summary from each one of you, if that's okay. Duda, are the data slates what you expected? Are they the right way to go? Are you looking forward to the next one?
It's like at the current state of the game, it just requires the total, repair.
Overhaul.
Yeah, I don't know even it's a repair a good word. They should delete entire system and write it down again from the basics, and rewrite entire codexes and just basically do the same flip as they did from 7 to 8. So erase all the rules, read them, write them again, write the indexes for all the armies, take down everything to the same level, hopefully the lowest possible level, so that 2 attacks is very much on the model, not like today, like 6, and all the stuff, and rewrite everything again, and just, do the wholly new game rather than try to fix it. Because trying to fix it it's not the way you should do it, especially in the place where it is now.
Okay, Vladdi.
Well, I totally agree. I couldn't agree more. What this game needs now is a hard reset. Everything down to being nothing, and then a release of hopefully all the codexes at the same time, not over 5 years, but done by different people, by different, I don't know, janitors, by different groups of people, because you can clearly see that most of the codexes are either in groups or individually are made by different people with different ideas. What was done to our codex is a terrible shame, and when you compare that to these new codexes, you can clearly see that there's no way of balancing orcs in this game now, because they have weaker or mediocre, but mostly weaker stratagems that new codexes have, but at the same time more expensive, at least more expensive. They have non-existent infantry, but at least they got increase in points. They have a lot of infantry-based infantry shooting units that got nothing from the army-wide rule, from one, nothing at all, and got useless because someone got the idea that rocket launcher of the orcs should be a heavy weapon that actually wiped that weapon off all the infantry models in orcs army. So basically the problems are so deeply rooted in old codexes that it cannot be fixed with the balancing data slate. It just cannot be done. You need to erase everything and then build everything up from the beginning to, yeah, and I want to make that clear, to make all the codexes like new Tyranid Codex, because new Tyranid Codex is a very good codex.
Mhm.
It's a very, very good codex. There are only 2 units that are completely useless. Maybe not completely. There's 1 unit that's completely useless, and I mean Hive Guards. They just, they killed it, then they buried it, then they burned it, then they, put
Dumped on it.
salt on the ground when they burned it and buried it. There's nothing left.
So have you changed your mind on Gene Stealers then?
Well, they're useless, and there are far worse that everyone expected them to be.
Mhm.
But at least they have forward deployment, so they can be useful in some game. But generally, the codex is very good, and I hope that it would be nice if the whole system was resetted, and someone responsible for Tyranid Codex made all the codexes in the same way from the beginning and release them at once, because I don't think anything else is gonna make this game good anymore, and it's not gonna happen, obviously. So we are gonna be ranting from time to time on your podcast.
Okay. So we're very thankful for that. And that was an incredibly long one sentence. Joker, your summary.
I don't want to ruin what the guy said by
Yeah, I
showing
think that is the perfect summary.
Yeah, especially that I was actually going to be positive, so maybe I will not do that.
No, go on. We need some positiveness on this podcast as well.
So, well, I don't want to deny what the guy said, because yeah, and I think it's also worth mentioning that there's again terrible amount of rules bloat. So there's so much you need to keep track of. There's data slates, there's codices, there's FAQs, there's whatever. But yeah, I think obviously the game is now in a bit better place than it was a couple of days ago even. So I guess we've got that.
So I can't help but ask this question to what you said. Do you think that it would help the game if they brought back those, like, what's the word, uniform rules that you had?
Universal special rules.
Universal, yes, you had them in the rule book and they applied it to all the units that had this particular rule written on them, and they didn't have army specific names for very much the same rule. Would that help the game in any way, or is that not the problem?
Well, of course it is. It would.
Mm-hmm.
My God, the deleting the universal special rules from the rulebook was the worst move. Was the worst thing that happened to 8th edition from comparing to previous editions.
Okay, so G-dubs, you know what to do. Right. Any final thoughts, guys, or do you think we can wrap this up?
Oh, I have enough ranting for one night.
For one night, yeah, it's Friday afternoon. We need to rest after a difficult week. So, guys, thanks a ton for coming to and for recording another episode with us. I think your insights were really valuable, and I do hope that our listeners share that sentiment. Next week, hopefully, if time allows, if the planets align, we will cover the already well-known Tyranid Codex, but probably we will not focus on the book itself very much. We will focus more on what plays, what doesn't play, and hopefully Vladdi can join us to tell us what his ideas for lists are. So tune in if you're interested, because it's going to be one hell of an episode. And for, I guess, thank you, and until next time. Bye, guys.
Cheers.
Bye bye.
Bye.